Thank you to all of the hundreds of business advisors that have signed up for this webinar hosted by the Small Business Administration and Sizeup. We value your commitment to growing America's businesses and will make sure you get direct value that you can deliver to your clients as a result of this webinar. Our goals today are to show you how you can use the Small Business Administration's innovative new Sizeup service to help the business clients you advise so you can collaboratively grow their companies using this newly available business intelligence. And now I'll turn it over to the business intelligence experts at Sizeup.
Thank you, and welcome to everyone to this webinar training. Let's start with some context. Small businesses know their business. They know how to sell clothes, fill cavities, or build chairs. But too often they don't know how to run a business. So when it comes time to grow their company, they don't have access to the information they need or the expertise to make tough decisions. This is where business advisors like you come in, and where you and your client companies can benefit from business intelligence. Big businesses are different. They may hire large management consulting corporations for big money, or have internal staff experts to interpret data for where they stand in the marketplace and how to grow. Small businesses can't afford to do this. Sizeup addresses this problem by giving small and medium-sized businesses access to high-quality business intelligence in much the same way. So let me show you the lay of the land and how Sizeup does this. So let's say you have a shoe store in Sunnyvale, California. You'll be interested in how you size up compared to your competitors. What's the smallest amount of information you can give off the top of your head to get great feedback? So let's enter in your revenue. Let's say you make $567,890. Sizeup super crunches millions of data points to benchmark your business against every single shoe store in the country. Just to be clear, this is a comparison specifically of shoe stores, which is the industry that was entered. This is not a comparison to retailers in general. You can see in the graph that your store makes less money than other shoe stores in your city, county, metro, or even the nation. Sizeup visualizes this information in the map below, and the map shows where the highest average revenue is for shoe stores. Red is the most, which is good, and yellow is the least, which is not as good. And you can see this is Sunnyvale in the center, but outside these darker red areas are where there is more revenue. So these might be places where you want to target your marketing or perhaps expand with a new store in these locations. Sizeup is hyper-local. Let's provide a little bit more information, such as the year the company started. Let's say the business started in 1999. Here we're charting every shoe store across the country when they started. Maybe you're not interested in the national or state data, so we'll turn that off. But you can see in your metro area that the trend is that more shoe stores are opening up all the time. What about salary? Let's say the company pays its employees $25,000 a year. Does it pay them more or less than is typical? Here we can answer that. The typical shoe store pays about $22,000 a year. So you pay more than the going rate. In the map, when we zoom out, you can see these are the counties that have the highest salaries. Places like San Francisco and Marin. So I entered the number of employees you have next. So at 7 employees, you can see that your business is larger than the shoe stores in the city, but pretty consistent with other shoe stores in the surrounding areas. Now, an exciting part is that originally you had to enter in information, but as you enter data in, Sizeup's able to provide you additional analysis without you entering data. And in this case, it shows cost effectiveness. And unfortunately for this business, it has relatively poor cost effectiveness. Cost effectiveness is a measure of how much output you get relative to how much you're spending. This map shows you the cost effectiveness. And so this area that we looked at before, San Francisco and Marin, where they had high salaries, is actually not creating high effectiveness for the shoe stores. You can also look at information such as revenue concentration. So here, this is where there's a lot of spending. Now we're looking at, by zooming out, at counties. Now we're going to zoom out to see the whole state of California and even the whole nation. We can also look at the data a different way. And this now we'll look at it as total revenue. It's not surprising that the largest states have the highest revenue, but when you normalize it by person, Nevada actually has people spending about as much per person on shoes as California, and even more than Texas. There's a cost associated with hiring and training new employees, so planning for that based on typical employee turnover is very helpful. In this case, the typical shoe store has to replace about 13% of their employees every year. So we'll close that up, move on to healthcare. Let's say you spend $5,500 on healthcare for your typical employee. Comparing your business to other similar businesses, you pay $521 more for healthcare per employee than the average company of your size in your state. So this might tell you that the business needs to talk to their vendor to see if they should reduce that or if there's a better offer, or in fact they're getting higher value for what they're paying. Or we can enter in workers' comp. So we can close up all of these things and get an overall benchmark of our business. If we close up some of these detailed information, we can see an overall benchmark of our business. Here we can see our revenue, year started, salary, employees, and so on. It's very simple. Red is less, green is more. And generally red is bad and green is good. So within just a few minutes, you were able to enter some information off the top of your head for your business, or information that was provided to you by the businesses that you advise, and see how the business sizes up compared to all the businesses in your unique and specific industry. Now, if you're advising a serious or successful business, they'll also want to know other things. They'll want to know where their prospective customers are, where their competition is, and where their suppliers are. So let's say that you're thinking about opening a beauty salon, and you're thinking about opening it up in Beverly Hills, California. You just enter in your industry and location. What we're able to do is map all the beauty salons in the area. So you sell to other businesses, and you decide your target market is going to be models. And so you're going to market your services to talent agencies that employ these models. So they'll send them over to your salon so you can make them look beautiful for their work. So we typed in talent, and now we can map the locations of all of these businesses. So of course, you also have to buy. So you're probably buying some beauty supplies. Type in beauty supplies, wholesale, great. Now we have competitors, customers, and suppliers. The trick, of course, is to find an area where you have a lot of customers with no competitors. Here you can see there are a lot of areas where there's a lot of competitors, even if there are a lot of customers. But visually we can look. Where are a lot of green, which are customers, but without a lot of orange, which are competitors? And you start to see certain areas. Like this seems interesting. So here's an area where there are relatively few beauty salons, but many of these talent agencies. So this might be a location that you want to consider opening your business or a new business. And you're also just within a few blocks of a beauty supply store. In case you run out of whatever's in your shop, you can just walk over there. We can also overlay consumer expenditures for personal care to see which areas people live in that spend a lot on personal care services. This is another tool to evaluate locations. Another thing that businesses are going to be interested in is where they're going to market their product or service. So let's say that you're a dentist and you're located in Chicago. Where should you advertise? You just enter in your industry, and we'll be able to show you. Right here is where the areas where dentist offices are making the most money. In this case, it's some of the suburban locations as well as some closer to the downtown. But maybe the dentist office is trying to find the areas that are most underserved, so they can find new business opportunities that other dental offices aren't reaching. So we select most underserved markets, and the map changes. But let's say you're a dental office that focuses on lower income households. So you can add filters. So let's say you want to target places that have a household income of less than $40,000. So what are those places in Chicago? So we'll search, and it should give us some different analysis. So very quickly you can add a number of filters and get information of where to advertise. So those are the key features of Sizeup, where you can benchmark all the businesses in your area, you can identify where your competition, customers, and suppliers are, and the best places to advertise.
Thank you for that great demonstration and information so that business counselors can assist their client companies with this valuable service. Now we'll take and respond to questions and answers. If you have a question, just type it into your webinar control panel. First question: how does registration work? As a business counselor, should I register myself with all my clients under my account, or should each of my clients have their own account?
Thanks. Well, Sizeup is designed for one registration per business, and it saves the information, so the business only needs to update the information if the data changes. However, if you only have a couple of clients and they are all in different industries, then perhaps you could get away with only having one registration. But the downside of that is that it's going to be more cumbersome for a business advisor to manage, and the actual business won't have access to their own Sizeup data unless you give them access to your login and password, which you might not want to do. Also, if you have multiple companies you advise in the same industry, when you enter data for one company, it will overwrite data for the other company. We suggest that you simply sign each of your clients up with their permission using your clients' emails. All the registrations are free and anonymous, and no personal or company names are required for registration.
Next question: is Sizeup something I use for research for a business one time and I'm done, or is it something I need to use over time?
Well, it's kind of like if a small business comes into you to get advisory services. The company could just come in one time, but it's likely that as they grow, they will change and want updated advice from you in the future. It's the same with Sizeup. As time goes on, their revenue, employees, salaries, and other variables will change over time. It will also change for their competitors that they are benchmarked against. So for example, maybe their company is in the 68th percentile for revenue the first time they enter their data. But when they come back to update it with their increased revenue, Sizeup will show their company is now in the 76th percentile. Or if their industry is growing a lot, they could have the same revenue but actually decrease in competitiveness. So they should keep coming back to Sizeup to update their data and see how they are doing at that moment in time. Significant amounts of the Sizeup data is updated quarterly, and our plan is to update more frequently in the near future.
The next question: where does the data come from?
That's a great question. So we'll show you a little bit about that. There are a number of data sources that Sizeup has data, and we've organized it into generally some data buckets. This includes information such as demographic, geographic, labor, wage, costs, consumer, transportation, and industry data. We can't get into all of these data sources, but we'll focus on some specific ones. These include industry, demographic, and geographic data. The industry data comes from hundreds of public data sources: IRS records, county courthouse filings, annual reports. It covers over 14 million businesses. The demographic data comes from the U.S. Census, BLS, BEA, IRS, HUD, and a number of other sources. However, small businesses want really accurate current data. They're not going to make a $100,000 decision, let alone a $10 million decision, based on data that's old. And census data could be a few years old to 10 years old. So all of our demographic data is projected forward to current year data. The geographic data that you saw during the demonstration, the underlying data is Google Maps, but we overlay information from Sizeup as well as information from local governments, public, proprietary, and internal data.
Next question: does Sizeup have data for every industry?
Well, some industries are too small to effectively benchmark, so they are not included. Sizeup covers benchmarking and industry data for 93% of all businesses in the USA. If the businesses you advise are in any of the typical industries, it's very likely Sizeup has data for their business. Okay, so I think that's it. So thanks everyone for attending. Have a great day.